You don't need to make a huge financial mistake to waste your money. Sometimes, all it takes is 100 tiny decisions you never stopped to question. $5 here, $20 there. A delivery order because you're exhausted. A subscription you forgot about. Something on Amazon that suddenly feels impossible to live without. And then the paycheck arrives, the bills get paid, and somehow you look at your bank account and wonder, where did everything go? Here's the strange part. Most people try to solve this problem by focusing on the number. They create a budget. They download an app. They promise themselves they'll spend less next month. And sometimes that works. But there's a deeper problem hiding underneath the numbers. You can know exactly how much you spent and still have no idea why you spent it. And that's where a Japanese approach to money becomes surprisingly relevant to modern American life. Imagine opening your phone tonight and seeing an advertisement for something you didn't know existed 10 minutes ago. Maybe it's a new pair of shoes. Maybe it's a kitchen gadget. Maybe it's an upgraded version of something you already own. The price isn't outrageous. That's what makes it easy. You think, it's only $30, so you buy it. Then tomorrow, you order lunch because you're busy. $25. A few days later, you see something online that is marked down 40%. You weren't planning to buy it, but now you're saving money by purchasing it. Then there's the streaming service you barely use. The app subscription you forgot about. The premium membership you keep because canceling it feels inconvenient. The late-night food delivery because cooking feels like too much effort. None of these decisions feels catastrophic. None of these decisions feels catastrophic. But your bank account experiences them differently. Money doesn't care whether the purchase felt small. Every dollar still leaves. And this is why one Japanese budgeting tradition offers an idea that is much more powerful than simply telling yourself to spend less. It's called Kakeibo. Kakeibo developed as a household budgeting practice centered around recording and reflecting on money. But when adapted to modern life, its most valuable lesson isn't about keeping a perfect spreadsheet. It's about awareness. Because the moment you become conscious of a purchase, the purchase changes. Think about how often you spend money automatically. You tap your card. You click Buy Now. You order through an app. You renew a subscription. You barely experience the transaction as a decision. Modern technology has made spending almost frictionless. You don't have to physically hand someone cash. You don't even have to think about the money leaving your account. The transaction can happen in seconds. And when spending becomes effortless, awareness becomes extremely valuable. The first question is simple. What did I actually buy? Not what did I intend to buy. Not what did I think I needed. What did I actually buy? That question sounds almost too obvious. But start writing down every unnecessary purchase for 7 days. Not just the amount. The purchase. A coffee. A delivery order. A pair of headphones. A subscription. A random item from Target. A snack at the gas station. Something from Amazon. Something you bought because it was on sale. Something you bought because you were bored. Something you bought because everyone else seemed to have it. After several days, a pattern starts appearing. And that's when the second question becomes more important. Why did I buy it? This is where money becomes connected to behavior. Maybe you weren't hungry when you ordered delivery. You were tired. Maybe you didn't need the new phone. You wanted the feeling of having something newer. Maybe you didn't need the clothes. You wanted to feel confident. Maybe you didn't need the expensive dinner. You wanted a reward after a difficult week. Maybe you didn't need the online purchase. You wanted a few minutes of excitement. This doesn't mean those purchases are automatically wrong. That's important. The goal isn't to become someone who never enjoys anything. The goal is to stop confusing an emotional need with a financial need, because sometimes we're not buying an object, we're buying a feeling, comfort, relief, excitement, status, convenience, belonging, control. And once you understand that, something changes. You can start asking a much better question. If I want this feeling, is buying this thing really the best way to get it? Imagine you've had a terrible day. You get home. You're exhausted. You don't want to cook. So you open DoorDash. You order dinner. There's nothing morally wrong with that. But imagine this happens 3 times a week. Now the problem isn't one delivery order. The problem is that exhaustion has become connected to spending. Or imagine you feel stressed, so you start browsing Amazon. You aren't consciously saying, I'm going to spend money because I'm stressed. Instead, you're looking for something interesting. You find it. You buy it. For a moment, you feel better. The purchase becomes a tiny emotional reward, and that pattern can repeat. This is why simply saying, I need more discipline, isn't always enough. You need awareness before discipline can work. And this leads to another question inspired by the Kakeibo approach. Do I need this, or do I want this? Again, the question sounds simple, but modern advertising constantly works to blur that distinction. A want is presented as a necessity. A convenience becomes an expectation. An upgrade becomes a requirement. A sale creates urgency. A social media post creates comparison. And suddenly, something you lived perfectly well without yesterday feels necessary today. Think about your phone. If your current phone works, makes calls, sends messages, takes photos, and performs the tasks you actually need, what exactly are you buying when you upgrade? Sometimes the answer is better technology. Sometimes it's convenience. And sometimes it's novelty. There's nothing wrong with wanting novelty. But you should know when that's what you're paying for. Because an intentional purchase feels different from an automatic purchase. An intentional purchase says, I know why I'm buying this. An automatic purchase says, I just bought this. That distinction can save more money than another complicated budgeting trick. And there's an even deeper question. What does this purchase cost me beyond the price? Suppose you spend $30 on something you don't really need. The obvious cost is $30. But that's not the entire cost. That $30 could have gone toward your emergency fund, your credit card balance, a future trip, a larger purchase, a financial cushion, or simply greater peace of mind. This is opportunity cost. Every dollar can only be used once. So the question isn't merely, can I afford $30? The better question is this the best use of $30? That changes everything. Because someone can technically afford almost every individual purchase and still be financially stressed. A person making $5,000 a month can waste money. A person making $10,000 a month can waste money. A person making $15,000 a month can waste money. More income doesn't automatically create more control. Sometimes it creates more opportunities to spend. This is lifestyle inflation. You get a raise. Your spending rises. You move into a nicer apartment. Upgrade your car. Eat out more. Buy better clothes. Travel more often. Add subscriptions. Increase convenience. And suddenly, the raise that was supposed to improve your financial life has disappeared into a more expensive version of your old life. That's why the Japanese principle is so interesting. It doesn't require you to hate consumption. It asks you to become conscious of consumption. And here's the uncomfortable part. Sometimes the purchase isn't the real problem. What you're trying to feel after the purchase is, you might think you want the shoes, but maybe you want confidence. You might think you want the expensive car, but maybe you want recognition. You might think you want the vacation, But maybe you desperately need rest. You might think you want another delivery order, but maybe you need convenience because you're overwhelmed. Once you identify the real need, you gain choices. You can still buy the thing, but now you're deciding. That's very different from reacting. And this is where you can create a simple, modern, Kakeibo-style system. Before making a non-essential purchase, pause. Then ask yourself 4 questions. What do I actually need? What do I want? What am I trying to feel? And can I afford this without compromising something more important? Don't overcomplicate it. You don't need a financial spreadsheet every time you want coffee. The purpose is to create friction where your spending has become automatic. Try it for 7 days. Write down every non-essential purchase. Then beside it, write 1 sentence explaining why you bought it. Not what you bought, why. You may discover something surprising. Maybe most of your unnecessary spending happens when you're tired. Maybe it happens late at night. Maybe you spend more after stressful workdays. Maybe social media triggers you. Maybe sales trigger you. Maybe boredom triggers you. Maybe convenience is your biggest expense. And once you know the pattern, you can change the environment around it. If late-night shopping is the problem, don't browse shopping apps in bed. If delivery is the problem, keep a few easy meals available at home. If subscriptions are the problem, review them once a month. If credit cards make spending feel invisible, check the balance before making discretionary purchases. If sales convince you to buy things you never wanted, remember this. A discount isn't savings if you wouldn't have bought the item otherwise. That's one of the most important distinctions in modern consumer life. You didn't save $40 by buying something for $60 instead of $100. You spent $60, and perhaps you saved nothing. The same principle applies to buy now, pay later. Splitting a purchase into smaller payments can make the immediate decision feel easier. But making a payment smaller doesn't automatically make the purchase cheaper. The question remains, do I actually want this enough to trade future income for it? That question creates perspective. And perspective is what automatic spending destroys. The goal isn't extreme frugality, it's intentionality. You don't need to stop eating at restaurants. You don't need to stop traveling. You don't need to stop buying things you enjoy. You don't need to feel guilty every time you spend money. You simply need to stop letting every purchase happen without your participation. Because there is a huge difference between spending money and wasting money. Spending money can create value. A great meal with people you love can be worth it. A useful tool can save you time. A trip can create memories. A comfortable home can improve your daily life. The problem is not consumption. The problem is unconscious consumption. And once you understand that, the goal of financial discipline becomes much more attractive. You're not trying to become someone who never spends. You're trying to become someone who knows why they spend. Because financial freedom isn't only about earning more. It's also about reducing the number of decisions you later regret. Imagine looking at your bank account at the end of the month and knowing exactly where your money went. Not because you restricted yourself from everything, but because you chose. You bought the things that mattered. You ignored the things that didn't. You recognized emotional spending before it happened. You noticed convenience spending. You questioned lifestyle upgrades. You protected money for future goals. And slowly, something happens. Money stops feeling like something that disappears. It starts feeling like something you direct. That's the deeper lesson behind this Japanese approach. Awareness comes before control, and control creates freedom. So try something today. Before your next non-essential purchase, don't immediately ask, "Can I afford it?" Pause for a moment. Ask yourself, Do I need this? Do I want this? What am I trying to feel? And if I buy it, what am I giving up instead? You might still make the purchase, and that's okay. The difference is that now you made the decision consciously. And maybe that's the real rule that stops you from wasting money. Not never buy, not always save, not become extremely frugal. Simply pay attention. Because maybe the problem was never that you couldn't earn enough. Maybe too many of your financial decisions were happening without your attention. And when you start paying attention, every dollar becomes a choice again. The goal isn't to spend nothing, it's to stop spending without thinking. Money gives you options. Awareness decides whether you keep them.